Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of the Beyond the Image podcast. In this image, we're going to be diving into my recent cover shoot for Paradise Valley City Lifestyles magazine. So let's dive right into it. Are you tired of the endless stream of fantasy marketing and vanity metrics? Yeah, so am I. My name is James Patrick, and I'm an internationally published photographer, media specialist, and marketing strategist. I'm also a student of professional development, and like you, I've been left frustrated by all of this influencer-driven generic advice, making us think that we are just one course, conference, or manifestation away from the life of our dreams. We need to cut through this crap and move beyond the posturing, beyond the facade, beyond the image, to take real action on the real work that will create the real results. This is the Beyond the Image podcast. Super excited to have Nadine Bubeck with me. She's the publisher of Paradise Valley City Lifestyle magazine. Nadine, how you doing today?
James, that is a snazzy introduction.
Well, thank you so
much. I love it. And usually I'm on your side. I'm usually the one doing the interview, so I'm in the hot seat.
A little bit. No, it's AC's on. It's not not too bad in here.
Just my palms are sweaty.
Well, you got your background starting in TV journalism, actually. So give me a little bit of the rundown of what you did working with TV.
I have like a 3-minute spiel and I'll try to cut it down. How's
okay.
that, James?
Yeah, sure.
All right. So my background is in television news. In fact, I always wanted to be a news anchor ever since I was a little girl. You know, you do these autobiographies when you're little, and I found mine, God, I must have been like 4th or 5th grade. And it said I wanted to be Katie Couric because she hosted the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. So I believe in manifestation, and I pursued it, and I pursued it hard. And my first TV job was in Yuma.
Arizona. Okay.
Yuma, Arizona. And if you've driven to San Diego,
you've stopped in Yuma, Arizona.
Stopped in Yuma to get some gas. That was my first TV news job, and I was 21 years old.
Okay.
I launched, anchored, and produced the 4 p.m. newscast at 21 years old. I wore the same pants pretty much every day because I made $7 an hour. I rolled my own teleprompter. I got sent on assignment. And you know what? Yuma was such a fantastic market because, you know, we had border stories, and we had the Marines there, and it was a great first market.
Mm-hmm.
Then I went to Fox 5 in San Diego. So I went from
That's a huge jump.
It was a great jump. I was very fortunate. You know, like you, James, I believe in networking and establishing connections with people early on. And let me tell you, I pursued Fox 5 so hard. Rich Goldner, and I will send him this video because he was my news director there. And I basically knocked down the door and said, please meet with me. And he did. In fact, I drove from Yuma to go meet with him. And I arrived, my car was filled with dirt and bugs because every time you drove from Yuma, you would have to drive over the hill to get to San Diego, and it just was so dirty. And after our interview, he put washer fluid in my car.
Get out.
Yeah, my news director. Anyway, I got hired at Fox 5 San Diego, and it was a new station. So in San Diego, what happened is Fox reinvented themselves on Channel 5. So I was part of the original Fox 5 San Diego crew.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a dream job because I was young and living in San Diego. And plus I got to cover the fun stuff. Like I was doing surf competitions and Chargers when they were there, and all the times they almost made it in the playoffs. And it was just such a beautiful community of people and a great station. And, you know, my boss, Rich, he never said no.
Okay.
If you had an idea, he never said no. And that is something that has stuck with me all this time, especially now being the owner of this magazine. So I was at Fox 5 San Diego. In fact, the weather girl was in my wedding. After that, I worked with one of the girls there. She was from Scottsdale.
Okay.
And we lived together. We were reporters together. And she said, hey, come with me to the Phoenix Open. So I went with her to the Phoenix Open because she always went with her friends from elementary school, which just so happened to be my now husband. We say it was an arranged marriage, getting rid of both of us, which she did successfully. So I jumped from San Diego to Phoenix, and I started working at Channel 5 here, KPHO, over 10 years ago. I was the morning show traffic girl.
Okay.
So I spent a few years doing that. got married. So it was really fun because all the viewers got to kind of see me new to Phoenix, getting married, walk us through the wedding, and then got pregnant early on with my first son, which I now have 3.
Mm-hmm.
It was a rocky pregnancy. I had to go on bed rest and leave work. And after I went back to work, it was just, I wanted to be with my baby. So that's
Yeah.
when I kind of cut ties with news. But TV's a part of me. I love television. I'm so grateful for the opportunities that I've had in the years that I worked in TV for 10 years. And you know what? Even 3 kids deep over the past 10 years, I've still stayed very immersed in the TV news business and doing a lot of stuff more on my own terms, like lifestyle.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when did the inspiration happen because print media is definitely a niche venture, and then specific, you tied into a really hyper local print media opportunity. So how did that idea even manifest for you?
That's a great question, James. So over the past 10 years, I've been very flexible with my boys. They're 10,
Mm-hmm.
9, and 6, raising them as babies. But like some people get their high off Pilates, I love to work. I am very creative. My passion ultimately is storytelling. And
Mm-hmm.
over the past 10 years, I've still stayed very immersed in the media sphere. I mean, the gamut, I've done it from marketing, PR, social media, TV, writing. I've really done it all. So now that the boys are in elementary school, I've been manifesting to get something back of my own and something that I could take and foster as a baby,
Yeah.
because creativity is my baby. The opportunity arose to acquire Paradise Valley City Lifestyle this past fall 2023. I had been very familiar with the City Lifestyle publication group
Mm-hmm.
because I've written for it. And I was like, you know what? Now is the time. I believe in timing. I believe in fate. I believe things happen and unfold all at the right reason and at the right timing. And I took over the publication. So to go back to your question about the niche, Paradise Valley City Lifestyle is very sacred and special. We are the exclusive luxury lifestyle monthly publication that reaches Paradise Valley, Arcadia, Biltmore, and those elite and affluent areas of Scottsdale and Phoenix. We're reaching
Mm-hmm.
the heart and soul of the state, and the people that we're reaching are so just ingrained in the community of Arizona. And it was such a natural fit for me to embrace our demographic because I live it, I breathe it, I sleep it, but also it's where I'm raising my family. My husband's from here.
Okay.
My husband went to elementary school through college here. So this is our life. And now I'm able to have something and make it what it should be to represent who we are and to represent everybody moving into PV from all over the country right now. We're
Mm-hmm.
one of the fastest growing areas of people just flooding on in here and taking advantage of our beautiful area and calling it home.
There's this fear that print media is under, a lot of just tense times right now. And what we've seen from a big picture is lots of the big iconic titles have started to either reduce the number of issues that they're printing, reduce the size of the issues they're printing, or shift to a complete digital presence. So this is really a precarious industry. I've been working in print media for over 20 years.
Right.
What gave you the confidence specific to a local publication? Why was local publication the right decision despite what might be happening from a national perspective?
This is one of my favorite questions that I get asked because I'm going to ask you, how often do you watch the morning news live?
Me? I don't.
You don't. But people love going on TV
Mhm.
and then they put it on social.
Yep.
And TV, they say it's going to die. It's going to die. It's not dying. It's just evolving.
Yes.
Here's what I love about print magazines, especially when you have something as beautiful as this. It is the only physical thing that you can hold and touch and feel and display left.
Yeah.
It really is. And, I'll be honest with you, 82% of people keep our magazine on their coffee table every single month because it's relevant and it's beautiful. Every month is a different theme, so it really goes along with the season. May being our women's issue, June is our men's issue. We have a holiday issue, a health and wellness issue. And they're seeing people in their community inside. What gave me the confidence to take over this print publication? My love for storytelling. And I am really trying very hard, tirelessly, to bring back good stories to print journalism, because really that's the heart and soul. That's my inner core. However, I do want to mention the heart and soul is this beautiful print publication. It really is. But I do strongly believe in a multimedia platform.
Yep.
So while, yes, we have this monthly print publication, we are more than that. I bring this magazine on TV every single month, and I always bring a guest or a partner with me. I am so overly active on social media. And if you look at our social media feed at Paradise Valley City Lifestyle, I'm the one running it, and it is authentic, and it is real, and it is relatable, and it is high quality. In fact, I grew up in the days when we would get 17 and YM, and I believe Instagram is that outlet to display, your magazine. So I really do that. I pour a lot into that. We have events, we have parties. We are really a multifaceted platform because I believe you have to have, all those little pieces of the puzzle to have a successful platform or publication. So yeah, I mean, I love print magazine because it's pretty and because you can hold it. But I do believe you need to have something strong behind it that covers all different elements of multimedia.
One of the things that I have noticed, and thus my hypothesis, is we're not consuming less media. In fact, we're consuming more media than ever before.
You're right.
But how we consume media has shifted.
Sure.
And, we've seen just in the last 2 years alone on social media, our attention span has contrasted.
Correct.
And the types of content we want to engage with has evolved. And it's not good. It's not bad. It's just what is.
Right.
And for our jobs as content creators or as media producers, we're just trying to find how people want to consume different types of media. So like when I think about like print publications, like I'm with you in that I believe the print publication is a souvenir of an idea.
Yeah.
It represents, like this women's issue represents all the stories that are a part of this. And when you have this, you have a memento of what this means. We do not go to a bookstore and buy magazines that we don't like. Or that we don't agree with what's inside. We buy magazines that we feel reaffirm our worldview. So if you live in this area and people love to support local, this publication supports your worldview. So to have this as a tactile thing and to display it, as you said,
it's proud.
That's its purpose.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. And I do want to reiterate, you don't pay for this magazine.
Correct.
So our magazine goes directly to the mailboxes in our demographic. So we're reaching thousands, over 81,000 eyes per month that's reading this print publication. And they're just getting it in their mailbox, the residences and the businesses, because I'm sending to a bunch of businesses, both local and statewide. So it's not like people are even paying for this. They're getting it like you. It's a purposeful gift, a present that they could then display. I can't tell you how many times I get emails of people saying, I just read your magazine cover to cover. Our April issue is our business and investing issue. Danica Patrick was our cover. I got an email from the president of Danica Patrick, and I keep it on my phone in case I ever have a bad day and need to refer to something. But it says, yours is the most beautiful local luxury magazine I've ever seen. And I do believe there is something very sacred about a magazine. And also people like to read.
Yep.
However, going back to what you were saying going back to the attention span.
Mm-hmm.
My background is writing, and I'll never forget what, when I was in college, I was trying to get an internship at ABC7 in San Francisco. And I would write emails. Oh my gosh, I would write tons of emails every day just to news anchors saying, help me, get me an internship. But I would write a novel. Like, I just remember just my background and growing up and my divorced parents, and that I would write them my life story.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll never forget, Wayne Friedman writes me back. He was a reporter, very well known in the Bay Area where I'm from in California. And he said, stop with the novels, write me another email and tell me what you want.
Wow.
And it was one of the most powerful things that have stuck with me. And what I'm trying to do now, because people do have a short attention span, is I am trying to structure these articles that make them very reader friendly.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll see a lot of our celebrity interviews are straight Q&As.
Mm-hmm.
Question, answer, because frankly, people want to read verbatim what this person is saying in response to my interview question.
Yeah.
So you'll see, and a lot, a lot of our cover spreads are 3 to 4 pages, but I'm also doing a lot of shorter articles, something that just pops and gets someone's attention, teaches them, inspires them, impacts them. So I'm trying to be very strategic with the content and the attention span that we're putting into this publication.
I'll echo that in that, contrast to Instagram, our attention span is, seconds at most. If we are picking up a magazine, there is the perceived idea that I'm going to invest more time into this. Even just flipping through it takes more time. So yes, I can divulge more, but I like that you're acknowledging that, hey, let's figure out ways to make certain pieces of content more consumable.
Yes, I like that word.
For its audience. One of the things, because I want to get back to your focus on multimedia, but before that, one of the things I've noticed about your covers specifically is that you put so much energy into who you are selecting for your covers.
Yes.
Tremendous amounts of effort and energy. You're not getting, it's not like, City Lifestyle being a franchise. It's not like City Lifestyle saying, hey, here's a bunch of celebrities that you can put on the cover.
Everything in here is coming from me waking up in the middle of the night saying, oh, that's a good idea, and then texting myself it. I mean, really.
You're doing the work to put these individuals on the cover. I'd love for you to share what goes into that decision process, because if this is a gift, if this is something we are putting out and displaying on there, the person on the cover or artwork on the cover or whatever's on the cover matters much.
Oh, yes.
So you could be, mailing it in and picking someone, just to throw on to fill a space, but you are putting so much energy into picking who you believe are the right individuals to put on the cover that you feel, even though this is a free magazine, sell the idea of the magazine.
Right, and not even sell, but almost represents the Valley or attracts my readers or interests my readers. Since my acquisition, our covers have been Alice Cooper, Dierks Bentley, Michael Nicole Phelps. We did an exclusive photo shoot with them. Randy Johnson for our home issue. He brought us into his house and talked about his photography. Danica Patrick, and now this dynamic cover for our women's issue. So just to hone in on that, because James, I mean, you were the one that made this whole cover come to life, and I'm forever grateful for your artistic talent. But, I toyed with who I was going to put on the cover for the women's issue. And it took me a while to really figure it out, because I wanted to do something different, and I didn't want to do just one person. I actually wanted to put together a cover that represents a diverse people who move the Valley, live in the Valley, impact the Valley, spanning different generations. So I had the idea. I'm like, okay, I'm going to, actually I contacted you, James. I'm like, well, how many people can we put on the cover? You're like, the magic number 7. I'm like, all right. So I knew I had 7 to work with. And I'm like, okay, I definitely want an A-list athlete. And I was kind of sifting through our local athletes, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to check out, the Phoenix Mercury. And I looked up Sophie on Instagram, and she's just a bombshell. And once I found out that Sophie is dubbed Spicy Sophie on the court, I was like, this is my girl. She is spicy on the court, but sweet on the outside. And I reached out to her people, and you know what their response was immediately? It was just absolutely, here's her cell. What do you need? And you always wonder, like, are they going to say yes? Will I have to jump through hoops? She was just all in and so excited. So I'm like, okay, check. I got my Sophie. Then, James, because I have a media rich background, I have so much respect and admiration towards women in news. More so, though, I have an adoration towards women who have transitioned out of news and have taken their history, their experience, their background, and have applied it to doing something different. And that's why I selected Carey Pena, who was a Valley staple on air for many years. And she was like, I'm a mom. It's time for me to make that transition and be fearless in doing so, because it's scary to leave news. Once, we don't marry TV news for the money, because there's not much of that. We marry it because it's in our blood, and we're addicted to the energy and the personalities and the constant go, go, go. So breaking up with news for any person, male or female, if you ask anybody in news, the breakup is always bittersweet and always challenging. But Carey broke up, and she just started her own business, Inspired 360, and she tells stories of people in the Valley. She helps people in the Valley. She MCs pretty much every event in the Valley. I don't know how she has enough energy to do what she does, but I wanted to put a media mogul on the cover because I'm biased. I love my media people, and they're so supportive of me as well, James. And that's another thing. Your bridges are very important to never burn, and these women have been so wonderful.
Well, and also you mentioned, one of the inspirations was women who moved the Valley, and it's hard to argue a role that moves the Valley more than a journalist.
And a journalist, yes.
They inform, they educate, they equip the citizens with the information they need to make the decisions that they make.
Yep. And Carey's still doing that, just on her own terms. And I couldn't have more respect for her in doing so beautifully and flawlessly and successfully. Then we have Katrina Barrett, who I've known for many years. And Katrina was one of the first partners that came on board with the magazine, because she basically said, Nadine, whatever you do, I will support you. And not only is Katrina one of the most immense support systems that I've ever met for anybody who meets her, she's an insane networker, but also dominating the real estate market. Her local luxury real estate business took over Walt Danley, and she's just a powerhouse. And I have so much respect for women who just, they hustle. Like, I've seen her on the side of the soccer fields. I've seen her when her kids are practicing, and she's there watching, but she's on the phone. She does it all, and she does it all with grace. And I was like, I wanted to put someone in business on my cover. And when I thought of business, I thought of Katrina. Next, I wanted to do someone who has immense philanthropic connection to the Valley. Who other than choosing the two 90-year-old women who started Child Help 65 years ago.
That's amazing.
65 years ago, these women started it. They just celebrated their 90th birthday, Sara and Yvonne. And I don't know if you know this, James, but they even live together. These women are best friends.
I learned that when they were on set.
Yeah, they live together. In fact, rumor has it, I heard one of them even dated Elvis.
Yes, I heard that too.
We learned a lot on the photo shoot, James, right?
So that's why she was smiling the whole time.
I'm sure. but what they've done with Child Help over 65 years, and to see it evolve and grow and expand and take over the valley of people's passions and projects, it's just incredible. And I love the generational gap between those two. And then Hailey, who's sitting on the ground. Hailey Ostrom, who we put her on the ground because only she could pose like that, James. She is a pro golfer. She's a young 30-something, and she is just a dynamic Spitfire who is doing fantastic online, talking about golf, interviewing people. She started playing golf when she was 3 years old. In fact, her dad made her first putter, which you'll learn about in the magazine. So she has a huge connection to golf and lives here in the Valley. In fact, she's married to a snowboarding Olympian who was once on Dancing with the Stars. So Hailey has a great story to tell. And I just love how we're covering the gamut of 90-year-old women to Hailey, who's really just skyrocketing her career, both in golf and in media. And finally, we have Myranda Molina, who is just dressed in diamonds and pearls every time you see her, but she has a heart of pure gold. And her goal is to help dress women or men in the Valley in bling that they can either splurge on or afford. And Myranda has been through quite a transition in her work. And now she has gone off on her own to create Myranda Fine Jewelry. And I love that she's just using her first name, and it's who she is, and representing the jewelry business here in the Valley. And I just think it's so important to have an array of women on the cover. And really, I bet some people receive this magazine and they're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Who, what, where, what's going to happen when I open this? But each one of these women is represented when you open this publication. In fact, something that, I do want to mention that's really important to me, because I do have a love for writing. In every magazine, I always write a lifestyle letter. And usually my lifestyle letter reflects on the cover and talks about what goes into it. And kind of piggybacking what you were asking me, you pour a lot of heart and soul into the cover, because I do. And I want people to know the story that goes along with it.
One of the things that I like so much about this cover is that it's so multi-generational. That, I mean, really 3 different generations of women here in the Valley, each with their own unique narrative on what they've done here. So being able to piece together this shoot was certainly, it was one of those shoots. This is rare this happens, but it was one of those shoots where I was up most the night before playing it through in my head over and over and over again. Like, because I had the idea for what I wanted to do, but and I don't know if you deal with this when it comes to like writing pieces or interviews, but as you get closer to doing the thing, you have so many other ideas on other ways it could be done. But you can't do it multiple ways.
It's one way.
Yeah.
And James, I gave you so much pressure. I'm like, okay, James, here's the 7 women. We'll show up. It's all you. And really, I was like, I just such value the relationship that we have, because I trust your creative freedom to dictate how this should look. So I was when I got here, it was a weight lifted off my shoulders. I'm like, it's all you, James. Take it away.
Well, then I hate to burst your bubble, but like we were so close to this looking so different.
We were so close to this looking different.
One of the things that I was thinking about, as it came to constructing this. So what we're looking at is what we ended up shooting for the cover. But moments before you arrived that day, my assistant and I were testing another concept, which was to shoot the whole thing on black.
I remember you saying that.
And the idea was to do something, because I would call this lighting high key lighting. It's bright, it's soft, it's luminous. And I was thinking to go something very low key, moody, edgy, lots of drama.
So why didn't you?
The reason I didn't do that was because I was so nervous that it would not be as flattering as a high key lighting setup.
Sure.
Particularly because like we're working with 3 generations
Right.
of individuals, and I want every single person to look at their photo and feel I am so proud
Yes.
of how this looks. And my fear is if I did a real low key lighting setup, that it's a lot easier
Okay.
to create something that someone doesn't love as much as I
Interesting.
love of them.
Well,
Right.
we'll have to experiment that another day.
Well, and
I'm curious.
it's all faces. You know,
Right.
like I did this campaign years ago for the Jewish war veterans of the
Okay.
United States. And I had like, I don't know, maybe 30 to 60 seconds with each of these veterans who participated in something dating back to World War II, all the way up
that's
to,
lovely.
campaigns in the Middle East. And, I just sat with them and I made a portrait of each person. And some of these portraits are, evocative
Sure.
in how it is communicating an emotion through 5 seconds of a
Right.
photo.
Right.
But I wouldn't say they're very pretty, right? They're interesting.
They're interesting.
They're curious. They're thought provoking, right?
Okay.
But I wanted this to both be powerful, but also very beautiful.
Right. And James, we had even talked about, I said, okay, all the women are going to wear, I told all the women just wear black.
Mhm.
I said, Sophie, wear the jersey to represent the Mercury. And we put her right in the middle. So I felt like that was a very powerful statement as well.
Yeah.
Women
Kind of anchoring.
Anchoring
Mhm.
women in sports. I mean, she's 6'1", so we knew she would tower.
That helped. Yeah.
But we didn't know what they were going to show up with. But I wanted them to show up in black, but whatever that meant to them. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Because half my closet's black. So it's like, what's your black outfit that you're going to wear on the cover?
Yes.
And how you put that against the white, it's just so strong.
I mean, you had everything from like power suits to
jewelry,
to a gorgeous
pearls,
pearls,
Yep.
to a golf outfit,
Yep.
like so many different ways
Yep.
that they're presenting themselves. So you show up and then we decide, okay, we're not going to do the dark setup. We're going to do this other setup. And then it just becomes about, we know there's 7 people.
Mm-hmm.
So fitting 7 people on a cover, which is a vertical photo,
Yes.
like most 99% of magazines are going to be a vertical cover, not a horizontal cover.
Right.
Like I was shooting a campaign yesterday, a skincare campaign. We had 7 models for that,
Uh-huh.
but I'm shooting all web. So
Right.
everything's
So you can do
horizontal.
everything's
Horizontal. Like everyone's in a row.
This
It's
was
great.
it was a challenge.
It was, so I want to say Vogue, but it might not have been Vogue. In regards to the inspiration of creating levels.
Well, the process that you do, James, is behind the scenes, so much went into this. Like you were sending me vision boards and ideas, and I just respect your process so much that I'm like, whatever works for you.
Yeah. Maybe I put too much thought into it.
I love that because, I'm a perfectionist when it comes to what I know I try to excel in, but this is your baby. You made this happen.
Yeah. I think the thing that I wanted to ensure was that no one got lost in it.
And no one, you're right.
That I wanted every face to.
You're drawn to every face.
Correct.
Yep.
Yes. So the thought of levels
and I
is
love
what we
how
ended
different
up
their
with.
Smiles are.
Yes. Everyone shows themselves differently. Yes. And then Hailey on the ground.
Yes.
That was not planned. That was spur of the moment. We
saw her. We're like, you are popping your knee, girlfriend.
Yep. We were originally thinking 2 levels, and I was to balance this,
it's a great balance.
We need
and
that
with the golf club
one
on the ground, it also represents who she is, and it also packages all together, right? Because Sophie's on the top, and then Hailey's on the bottom, both the athletes. It's like a whole package.
Yeah. Now we were almost thinking something completely different.
This is true.
We ended up doing just like at the end, like the shoot's done. And whenever I approach a photo shoot, I like to do safe photos first. Get the shot that if all else fails, this shot is going to work we're
Yes.
good. And that was what ended up being like, this was our safe shot. Like we pulled it up on the computer. We're
Yes.
like, this
Yep.
works.
Yep.
And then we're like, let's just allow
Have fun.
people to have fun.
Oh yeah, we were
and
having a lot of
present how they want to present.
Yep.
And it added a little bit of whimsy.
Sure.
It added a little bit of levity to it. And I mean, this came down to like,
oh, James, I was driving myself nuts because I think I stared at the two photos you just showed. I think I stared at those two photos for a very long time. And I'll be honest with you, I chose the fun one. I chose one with cat like this.
Mhm.
I did choose it for the cover. And the morning that the issue was due into our system for it to go to print, I woke up and I'm like, that can't be the cover. And it wasn't because I didn't, and I'll tell you why I wanted it to be the cover. I'll start with that.
Yeah.
Because it was fun. And usually you see all these women prim and proper going to meetings, and just to see them and they're playful as almost little girls again.
Yes.
It really resonated with me because inside of all of us is that inner playful child, especially with Katrina, who is throwing the peace sign. Like she has 3 little boys. She's a mom. She's playful. And Sophie was smiling and having a great time. It was a very playful shot. And I'm like, you know what? Maybe this will show them in a different light. But I woke up in a hot sweat and panic. And I'm like, it's just not right. So I emailed you 50 times and I woke you up at 5 a.m. I'm like, I want to do the other picture. I want to do the other picture. And we got the other picture.
To be fair, my son woke me up at 4:30.
Thank goodness for him. I will not take the blame for that one. But I'm like, James, we have to do the other photo. And now I'll tell you why I chose the other photo.
Uh-huh.
Because powerful women empower one another. And if you look at this photo, it not only is authentic and comfortable and inviting and personable, but it is also powerful.
Yep.
If you were to have anybody look into the way people are standing with the way their body is, with the way their head is up, with the way they're smiling with confidence, this picture, unbelievably so, because we took a lot that day, everybody was just on par with power. And I saw this picture and I'm like, you know what? This is what it is, because this is who they are. But I will definitely be showing a lot of our behind the scenes footage from the photo shoot on Instagram, because I do feel there is a lot more to show.
Yeah.
I mean, we were just doing videos. The women were having fun. A lot of these women knew each other. And James, a lot of them didn't. And they left making friends, exchanging numbers. In fact, I was with Hailey yesterday. She did a TV segment with me. She's like, Katrina has invited me to 50 million things. I'm doing a shoot for her. And the fact that even that 43 minutes of putting us together in a room, that these women could unite, befriend, and make connections, only goes to show that the power and magic behind women supporting women. And I say it over and over and over again. I will only surround myself, this platform, this publication, with positivity from all directions, because that's how we will all lift up together.
I think you made the right choice, and it has nothing to do with not liking the other photo, because I love the other photo. Because it subverted expectations, because it was so different and it was not what you would expect to see. But in hindsight, I was like, it should never diminish their authority. It should never be seen as a farce.
Right.
Like, yes, you can have whimsy, but the whimsy can never subtract from their authority.
And you and I both know that, but my fear was, would everybody else
know
that?
And that's why this was, I feel, the right decision for the cover shot. And then you have the other shot for social, for web, for whatever,
it'll be fun.
for whatever it is. And so that kind of leads me into the next thing I want to dive into is you, and I don't know what the franchise owner City Lifestyle demands of its publishers in regards to requirements
I will answer any questions.
but I've not seen any consistency, and that it's not a critique. It's just I've not seen any consistency between how you manage your social platforms versus how other franchise owners manage their social platforms.
You know what? Everybody is doing what they feel is best for their
Correct.
platform.
Yeah.
And the way I can only speak to our platform because I think there are fantastic, and I'm not even talking about City Lifestyle. Look, I'm in the media business no matter what, whether or not I'm not doing TV news anchoring every morning. And when I would go on shoots, you know, when I was a VJ in San Diego, VJ really stands for video journalist. What does that mean? It means I didn't have a photographer. I was reporting, shooting, editing,
Yep.
miking myself. I did it all myself. And I can't tell you how many times I was out there covering stories and photographers from other stations would shoot my stand-ups. Or when we would have big parties, how many reporters from all stations would come together. Look, the media business is friendly. We have to support one another, but we all have our own thing, right?
Yeah.
And the way I want to run our social media platform is to represent, you know, who we are as a community, number one, what we're doing in this magazine, number two, but also I strongly feel the number one thing for running our social media feed is relatability and authenticity. And what I'm trying to do is put together very high quality reels and photos. So you're not going to see infographics. It's just not my thing. It's not my style. It works for a lot of people. It's more just my personal choice. I want really strong visuals. And then I hope when people look at the posts, they're actually reading the verbiage that goes along with it. Because I almost put more time into curating the verbiage because, again, it's storytelling, right? So I think that's why we are elevating our social media platform, is because we are delivering social media feeds both with authenticity, but also with fun and also speaking to our audience. I mean, and plus, you know, I'm so grateful for the support that I have. I love when, you know, people are tagging us or coming to our events or posting, or, you know, we live in a world of likes, which frankly, I can't even look at because it drives me nuts. I don't want to live in a world of likes or engagement. I just want to live in a world where I can post something and hope that someone reads it and they like it in their head. I don't care about the heart. So yeah, I mean, sure, everybody wants to do their own thing, and I hope that our social media feed is speaking to people and they're enjoying it.
I mean, you know, one of the things I've noticed specifically with yours is you tend to think about, like, when you take on a story, it's not just I'm going to look at the story in the 2 pages I'm giving it in the magazine, or the 4 pages I'm giving the magazine. It's okay. We're allocating 4 pages in the magazine. But what could we do in addition to tell this story? And you've done things with, like, you know, for example, you've read your editor's letter or your publisher's letter in your social media. You've done behind the scenes pictorials. You've done outtake photos. You've done, like when you had Dierks Bentley on the cover, you were using footage.
He sent us a video.
This is creating different levels of content that your audience can consume. If your audience isn't big on reading, they can still connect with the brand.
Absolutely. And that's where I value tremendously that multimedia platform. As I said, the heart and soul is this print publication. And you were asking about City Lifestyle franchise. You know, everything that goes into this is what the publisher puts into this and what the owner puts into this. But as far as our social media, like, I want it to be a reflection of the magazine, but I don't want it to mimic the magazine, if that makes any sense.
It can't be a carbon copy.
A carbon copy.
Yeah,
yes,
correct.
You said that much better than I did. I want it to be just be associated with it, but tell different stories, maybe utilize more video content, or put in a part of an interview that maybe I didn't put in my 800 word article. A lot of behind the scenes, and we have a lot of really fun stuff coming, especially with our shoot. But looking ahead, I love, interviewing. I love speaking. So that's why it's weird for me to sit here. I want to ask you all the questions, but I'm trying now to do more in-person interviews where people live, where people work, so I can then push that on social media so you can see it and hear it if you don't necessarily want to read it. Or what if you don't even get our magazine? I want you to feel part of our community regardless.
Yeah. I think that's a really strong point, which is, when I look at how we manage our Instagram content, like, we know baseline 1% of our audience sees the content,
Right.
and that's a pretty low percentage. But if we get myopically focused on what our content purpose-wise is for and who it is for, we've noticed that Instagram rewards that. And it starts to show, like, we've had content in the last 2 months where well over 90% of the people, when we look at our insights, who are being shown the content and are engaging with the content are not our followers.
Right.
Which means it's hitting explore tabs, which means it's hitting trending topics.
Right.
This is expanding our reach, and you can do the same thing and are doing the same thing with your social accounts, which is, we're in the media business.
Right.
And we have individuals, like, I love tactile publications, and I will sit and read a magazine.
Yep.
But the attention I'm going to give a magazine, like, I'll give an example. We had, if you're familiar with the magazine, The Atlantic.
Yes.
They had produced a segment here at the studio,
Awesome.
which was really cool. I got to be a part of that. I get The Atlantic and I will read The Atlantic. Those are not short articles.
No.
Like, that's going to take me an afternoon to get through some of those. But am I going to give that same level of attention to their Instagram?
No.
Not a chance.
You'll just
not a chance.
You'll
Not
scroll,
a chance.
scroll.
But will I give something that captures my interest and intrigue a couple seconds? Yeah, you bet.
Right.
So if they were to come up with a way to capture my attention in 2 seconds, okay, now there's another touch point I have. And that's what I appreciate about what you've been doing, is you've been looking at, you have this universe, whether it's your web, your print, and your socials, and I would say emails and events speaking engagements, like, all of them are touch points. What are different ways that I can connect on this touch point, which is going to be unique from how I'm connecting to people over there? So just a vote of gratitude for the fact you've been doing it that way.
That's so kind of you, James. But really what this boils down to me is community. I've lived here in the Valley over 12, 13 years. But as I said, my husband is from here. I mean, we're raising our kids here. We have a village here. I mean, we have the friends that embrace my children like their own, that support me. I mean, we have such a sacred community that my goal is to have it represented and displayed, right? So it is very important that, we're telling good stories both in print and on Instagram, but it's also so important. Like, a few days ago, I did a teacher appreciation post, which my son's in kindergarten, and every year, these kindergarten teachers, they get little eggs, and they put the eggs in the incubator, and then they raise the chicks. I mean, that's something so different that our beautiful little Scottsdale schools are doing for these kids. And I want to tell the hot stories, the celebrity stories, the cool stories, but I also want to tell the things that people might not know about, or the story behind. We did a story in our April issue for it was our investing in business issue, and we did investing in community, and we talked about the women who are running the big Panda event this year. These women are busy. Like, they have jobs, full-time jobs. They have kids, they have husbands, they have obligations. And then there's this whole other job that they're pouring their heart, their soul, their time, their nights, their weekends into putting on this one event every year. So it's the story of them and why they're doing it and how they're balancing it. So I really think that there's so much we can dive into with embracing this community. And that's really all I'm trying to do with this platform. And appreciate your kindness. And, it's a work in progress, and my style might not be someone else's, but I hope that people are feeling that they're a part of it. That's all I want. I want people to know whether or not you get the magazine, I want you to be a part of it. I want you to feel like you can engage and connect and learn and grow and be inspired by the stories that you're reading, because my goal at the end of the day is to tell good stories in the community.
Two other things I want to dive into. One is, and my listeners will be super pissed if I don't ask. Well, no, nothing bad. So many of our listeners, and you're involved in our event next week. So many of our listeners are curious about how they land media features, and we talk so often on the show, at our events, on the power of local media. It is, I mean, I don't know if I've seen a more, when it comes to generating new business, I don't know if I've seen a more productive investment of time than investing in local media versus, let's say, national media. I mean, business specific, of course. But if listeners are like, well, I would love to be involved with a publication like this. I would love to have an article submitted, or I'd love to have an article about me. I think I have something to offer. What stands out to you as someone who has to get pitches? What makes a pitch worthy of inches versus one that is not in alignment with what you're trying to achieve with the publication?
That's a great question, because I've been on both ends, right? I've done PR, and I know what it's like to pitch tirelessly. During COVID, my oldest son at the time was 6 years old. He was in kindergarten, and I believe strongly in public speaking, and I was really upset because it's kindergarten and he's missing out on engaging with other people. And I'm like, okay, Nicholas, and and he's very crafty. He's my old soul, and I put a bunch of crafts on the table, and I said, make something. We love to travel, so he built a plane out of popsicle sticks. And I said, Nicholas, I go, why don't you sell these kits for kids to make airplanes, because no one's traveling right now. So James, the kind of person I am is I have an idea and then I don't really think about it. I just do it, which has worked for and against me many times. But Nicholas was like, yeah. So he came up with a name. He helped me build a website. He started making these kits. And then I'm like, you know what? I'm going to pitch him, because my background's in PR.
Yeah.
I pitched him. James, that kid has been on NBC Nightly News, E! News, Real Simple, Good Morning America. I mean, pretty much every affiliate around the country. He was waking up at 3 a.m. to do a 5 a.m. Zoom out of New York City. I am not kidding.
That is amazing.
But why did the media pick it up? I think we need to think about what's different, right? What's different? What are you doing that either hasn't been done right? What makes you different? And how are you doing it? What is your story? And I think that, Nicholas was a little kindergartner willing to do a Zoom and talk about his popsicle sticks and all these things. But it was different, right?
Yep.
I do get pitches all the time. And I appreciate pitches because I've been on that other end, and it's tough.
Yeah.
It's really tough. I mean, it's hard to get rejection. It's hard to not even get a response when you put so much love into writing an email and you're like, this is such a good pitch. What am I looking for? I'm always looking for a good story. I'm looking for someone who's hungry. I always go back to, and I tell my partners in our magazine, like our advertisers, which I hate that word, but really our partners, because they're more than that. I say, like my boss once said, I will never say no. If you have an idea, let's roll with it. Let's figure it out. Let's see how we could do it. So if you have this passionate pitch that comes from a place in your heart that's like, help me, I'm not saying I'm going to give you a 2-page spread, but maybe I could assign you something to freelance, or maybe you could do something on social media. Maybe we could do a few Instagram stories. I'll never say a hard no. I just think that I personally am looking for something that resonates with my audience. So you really have to know my audience. You have to know where my magazine is going. You have to know who my readers are. I mean, you need to know as much about what I'm doing before you pitch.
Yeah.
You need to do your research. You pick up a magazine, go on the Instagram, know what this is about, and then see if you can derive a fit for it.
Yeah. I'm so original, relevant, interesting.
Yeah.
Like, and the one I'll add to is, and you brought this up earlier when you were pitching yourself, is brief. Get to the point.
Get to the point.
And I was invited to be a guest judge for this. It was a Canadian magazine was doing, like, every year they do like their top personal trainer of the year.
Oh, that's fun.
They have hundreds of people apply to this, and they asked me to be one of the judges. And so I got this list. It was like a spreadsheet, and it was all anonymous. They deleted their names and information. So I was just reading the responses to questions. It was so utterly transparent, the individuals who put just a few moments of thought into, instead of just a copy and paste bio, why does my bio matter? Like, in regards to what about my story matters.
That's interesting.
To what this award is for, and highlighting that and bringing that up to the top. And it was, I mean, I'm talking like less than 5% did this. Like, it was such a minority.
And that's what stuck out to you.
And then it was clear who was using AI. My editor was kind of laughing with me. It was like, there's just certain words that only are used by AI. I was like, that's interesting. But I think we as individuals trying to earn media, it is an exercise all of us need to be doing way more often, which is how we are communicating our stories and trying to get our stories in front of media partners. Because it is a huge benefit to us to land media features. I land a feature in a magazine, that could mean lots of new business for me.
Right.
But it has to benefit you. And if it doesn't benefit
our readers,
by proxy, your readers. Yes. Like, because if you put out something that's not good for your readers, you could lose a reader.
Right.
And like, just like with my podcast, if I have someone on my podcast and I put out an episode where I'm like, this episode's not that great, not this one, but speaking in theory, I could lose a listener.
Yeah.
And you know how hard it is to get podcast listeners and to get them back. If you lost them, you can't get them back. They're gone. So I have to serve my listeners. So when someone's pitching to be on my show, and I get 2 to 3 pitches a day for people to be on my show.
Okay.
And when I get a pitch, I just look immediately. What's the idea?
I
don't care who you are. I don't care what your bio is, your credentials, your education, all the awards. It means nothing to me. What's the idea that you want to pitch?
Right.
And I just look, is this idea good for my audience? Yes or no? And if it's yes, I just trust you're the person to talk about it because you're pitching it. Yeah. You don't need to justify that. Like, I'll believe you.
Right.
Like, if you suck, I won't air it.
Right.
Like
exactly.
But but if I have to like dig to find it, or if I can't find it at all, like I've done not as well said as that one person said, but I've been like, what are you asking for?
Right.
Like, what is the pitch here? What are you even wanting to talk about on my show? Because if you can't tell me that, I don't know where we go from here.
Yeah. I agree. And that actually, it's even how we're trying to structure our articles. Like, I don't want to bury the lead. I mean, coming from news, it was so funny. Because we would write our own stories and write our own scripts. I mean, I'm sure AI does it now, but back in the day when you used to roll your own teleprompter, you used to have to write the way you speak and the way people hear you. So it was a very different way of writing. Like, it's so funny because my kids are learning, how to write For example, in conclusion, next, finally, you would never see someone on the news doing that. So we really had to, it was a different style of writing, news writing.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like magazine writing is also evolving because of people's attention spans.
Yep.
You can't bury the lead. The most important thing I have in my articles is the darn headline.
Yes, 100%.
So headline me. If you're trying to grab my attention and pitch me, I want a good headline.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
And the best way to exercise writing headlines is to pick up magazines.
Right.
Like, I mean,
are we coming full circle here?
Like,
only pick up this one.
Like, well, okay. So this one,
kidding.
the headlines are inside. So
well, we talked about that, James.
We did talk about that.
We did.
Yes.
So I do want to mention every one of our issues has a theme.
Mhm.
Obviously, this one is our women's issue. So we put the theme down here, the ladies issue. Now, a lot of my other magazines have teasers.
Yep.
Like teasers on the
run
side.
down the side of it. Yep.
And it says like, $1 million listings or or like inside Randy Johnson's house or Danica miles an hour. Like we do teases. But you and I actually talked about this. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not putting a tease on this cover because guess what? This cover is a tease. You have no idea what's going to happen when you open this because you're seeing a lot of women and you're like, well, who's the cover story?
Yep.
Who's the story here? And just to dive into that, do we still have time?
Oh,
dive into that a little bit? So let me actually explain where the stories are. We did a cover story on Sophie. So we did a long Q&A with her. I think it's about 3 pages. And then we did a Q&A with Hailey Ostrom. We did a story on Myranda Molina who does the jewelry on, the diamond trends right now for women. Now, for Sara and Yvonne with Child Help, Carey, Pena, and Katrina Barrett, we put together a spread in this magazine and we talked to, I think it was 10 women. And I asked them the same question. In 50 words or less, what fuels your fire? Mm-hmm. And I think it's always hard to 50 words is not a lot.
It is incredibly short.
It is incredibly short. So to come up with really what drives you, what sets you ablaze inside, what keeps you going and putting it into 50 words, that's where you're going to read these little bits of insight from these women. So really, yes, they're all our cover women. And when you open the magazine, you'll be able to read in-depth stories and then little blurbs. Because as we talked about, I do believe that attention span, there needs to be diversity even within the print publication that you're reading a long article and then some are like boom, 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 boom.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, your short beats. Yeah, I forgot you and I had that conversation about the cover cut lines because we've been noticing this as well. The idea of having cut lines on the cover or cover lines is you're trying to stand out on a newsstand, right? You're competing against so many different other magazines, and every magazine is kind of like this. Sure. So whatever cut line you put, like right here is the cut line I'm going to see unless I pull it out of the newsstand. But you're direct mail, so you don't have to compete. Yeah, this image can be the artwork.
It's the artwork.
Yes.
And plus that's your artwork, James. And I do believe that a cover is art. And covers are very important to me. And we are not going to talk about our June cover.
Oh my gosh.
Even though James did the most amazing photo shoot for our June cover.
I am so excited for this.
But I will tell you, I didn't put a teaser on that cover either.
Amazing.
Because when you receive June in the mail, it's just boom. And that's what it should be. And that's our men's issue. And we're not going to go any farther than that. Mm-hmm. But it's intriguing, right?
Yeah.
When you don't see a teaser on the front, you're like, okay, here's this magazine. It's 70 pages. Mm-hmm. And I don't even know what's in it.
Yep. But you do know that like this is the ladies issue.
You know it's the ladies issue. You know there's
thematically
a theme. Yes.
What this is. Yes. What the entire book is going to be about.
And that's what's great about City Lifestyle is we do have these themes that really do dictate the relevance every single month. And it helps, provide that avenue for content. And it's really interesting because you look, for example, our April issue was investing. And I keep going back to that because it's like you think of investing and you think of money.
Yeah.
But ours was investing in travel, investing in health, investing in community, investing in entrepreneurship, investing in yourself, investing in your home. So like, yes, there's this thematic idea, but when you open it, it's kind of like this buffet of content.
I love that you did that. Actually, that's a really clever idea.
Yeah.
It falls in such alignment with how we structure a lot of the content, whether it's the podcast or our digital, our print media outlets. Which is, we talk a lot about entrepreneurship, but that is such a finite topic.
It is,
and it's already being done. There are plenty of other media outlets that are doing entrepreneurship just fine. But let's talk about the lifestyle of entrepreneurship, which to me is more than just having a successful business. It's how do you have the life that goes with that business? How do you nourish your mindset? How do you cultivate the right relationships? How do you take care of yourself as the business owner so you live long enough to see the business succeed, right? So I love that you were doing that, because I feel like that's in such alignment with how we structure all of our content.
Well, you're just dynamic. I mean, you are the art. I mean, you're the art. And as I said, you asked, one of the first questions you asked me is print. Tell me about print. Well, print is visual. It's the one thing that you can hold, and that it's visual. So without someone who, you, James, you have such a creative knack and talent for the camera that, it was an honor to work with you and a pleasure to work with you. But also I have such trust in you that I know that the product will come out exactly as it's meant to.
Well, thank you so much for that. I very, very much appreciate that and accept that. Where can listeners go to see the magazine?
Absolutely.
If they don't get it, to connect with you on Instagram, all the things, because we want those in the show notes.
And we also need to mention, we are multimedia, so you can find us online. In fact, every single article and every single issue is online digitally, and that's at citylifestyle.com/Paradise Valley. Please follow us on Instagram at Paradise Valley City Lifestyle.
Perfect. And we're going to make sure all those links are in the show notes. Nadine.
Oh my gosh,
such
I love
a pleasure.
You
are amazing.
Thank you. Thank you for this cover.
Thank you for having me be
and for the June cover,
this.
Which we will not be talking about.
I cannot wait.
I know, neither can I.
We might have to do another segment.
But I'm going to interview you about that one.
Oh, all right. Well, we're going to do that. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of the Beyond the Image podcast. As always, we appreciate your 5-star reviews on the Apple Podcasts app, for sharing this podcast with a friend, for subscribing on YouTube. Thank you so much, and we'll talk to you in the next episode. Take care.